The longboard fin, and now the shortboard fin, were designed to be a fin with high lift and yet low drag. It's important to know that fins, foils, winglets really only do two things, and that's create lift and create drag. That's all they do. Now in surfer language, people talk about drive and hold. Those are other words for drag and for lift. You don't have magical drive or propulsion that pushes you through the wave. It just doesn't happen. It's physically impossible to create energy with such a thing. All these fins do is keep you from slipping sideways, or they hold you back, and that's lift and drag. You want more of one and less of the other. The more you have of lift per unit of drag, the better off you are, the better experience you have. And that's the reductionist philosophy of the Wavegrinder surfboard fin that's incorporated also into the shortboard fin. We do that by incorporating a number of features, which includes the bulbous forefoot and the cutaway, both of which features decrease interference drag, and that's the interference at the surface of the board. In the case of freighters, you'll notice that there's a bulbous forefoot. You also see them on aircraft carriers and naval ships all over the place. We also have winglets, and that prevents the leakage around the tip of water from one side to the other side. When you turn, what happens is the water will tend to go from one side to the other, and that creates a vortex and robs the fin of surface area effectiveness. With winglets, you can make the fin think it's larger than it is, make the water behave better. In other words, it has laminar flow across both sides of the fin for a greater period of time and a greater area of the fin surface area that you have, and that's one of the primary objectives of this fin. Also, the shape of the fin is upright. That's a very high aspect ratio. A lot of fins are very low in aspect ratio, low and slow. If you think of sailboats over time, we used to have a lot of sails. If you think back to schooners and square riggers, they were very long and relatively low. We didn't have the technology to build stuff that would be high and narrow. But high and narrow is more effective, and that's why you see long airplane wings, and that's why you see tall masts on sailboats like America's Cup boats and other sailboats these days. It used to be that you have just a ton of sails, and that doesn't make sense. Likewise, a quad setup, for example,
Here are some examples of some state-of-the-art foils. Now these are sails, not keels, but nonetheless the same principles apply. Notice how upright and non-tapered these upright high aspect ratio foils are. And for the purposes of comparison, I've copied the Wavegrinder fin here. Notice how upright it is and how similar to those America's Cup state-of-the-art boats. Now by contrast, there are a number of boats and planes here. That's the Bounty. It has a low aspect ratio sail plan. And here is a low aspect ratio keel on a sailboat. Then I have two drawings of a boat that was designed in approximately 1972 that has a heavily raked keel or swept back keel that's very similar to today's surfboard fins. And then finally are a number of multiple wing airplanes that some of you are familiar with seeing, including a quadruplane, or what might be called a quad, that shows a setup of 4 wings. Obviously those are no longer in vogue. So those are some examples of some high aspect ratio foils and some low aspect ratio foils. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me at wavegrinder.com via the Contact Us page. Thanks.